Good morning, everyone. Thanks for those that are already joined the call this morning. I'm just going to wait a couple of minutes more because I can see people are still joining. So if you can bear with, and then we'll get started. Okay, so I can see we've got a few more join now. So we're a couple of minutes after 10. So I'm going to make a start, and we've got a few stragglers. They can jump on. So I hope you've all got a cup of tea. Thanks for joining the webinar today. So we're going to have a look at how you can improve your time to hire and improve the candidate experience by going digital with your onboarding process. So we'll look at the current landscape for screening in the UK currently. And then we'll have a look at some of the challenges that we're faced with the onboarding process. And again, like I said, we'll have a look at how we can improve your onboarding process through digitalisation and automation. And I'll run you through our screening system to give you some examples of how you can do that. So my name's Suzy Parker. I work in the recruitment division here at Access Screening, and I'm a screening specialist. So if you want to get in contact with me following this webinar, there are my details. Please feel free to reach out. I'm on LinkedIn. There's my number and email address. But we will be sending out the slides and everything following this webinar with all the details in there. And hopefully you'll get in touch if you want some additional information. So looking at the screening process in the landscape at the moment, so we know that in terms of the research we've done in conjunction with IRH, 44% of the companies that we talk to are currently having challenges with meeting demands due to candidate shortages. This could be for a number of reasons. It could be, obviously we know that the candidate pool has shrunk because of less candidates in the market because of Brexit. We also know that many people moved sector during the pandemic, which affected different sectors with availability. Also, the introduction of digital right to work checks has widened the pool up, so it means that employers are able to look wider and further afield, which means that, again, there's more competition in the marketplace when employers are looking to attract new candidates. Based on this, we know that 69% of people have adjusted their process to help with these shortages, and that might be by introducing a screening solution or just by looking at how they're onboarding their candidates to speed that process up and keep them engaged through that process. We also know that there are still nearly half of those organisations still using a manual process. And this is what can cause you delays. It can be quite admin heavy. It can elongate the process. It can be quite complex. And this can be something that might really turn a candidate off, particularly if they're looking at numerous roles with numerous employers. So 80% of companies in the UK are losing candidates due to a complex onboarding process. And this might be because the candidate is receiving multiple links because of the data that you need to collect for them, or the information and documentation. So it just elongates that process. They might lose interest. We also know that 10% of companies still think that they're never losing a candidate through delays. So it's really about looking at your current process and deciding whether it's meeting all of your requirements, having a look at how your candidates are moving through your onboarding process, other ways you can improve it. Are you happy with the speed from looking at from that first date of engagement right the way through to getting them on board? And it's making sure you're evaluating that and you're getting the best possible return on the process that you use to onboard candidates, and you're being able to attract enough. So when we look at the candidate crisis, we can see that if we look at 21 versus 22, the challenges still continue. There's not been an awful lot of change. We're still seeing that across multiple sectors. They may vary slightly, but again, we still know that coming to the market and looking for candidates is still proving challenging across multiple sectors, with many organisations seeing employees having to work increased hours. It might mean that you're unable to meet demands of your clients. And it also means that lots of organisations have had to diversify in terms of the services they're offering, or even scaling down what they're able to provide. So how are customers looking at their onboarding and the recruitment? So we still have a lot of people using their manual process, as I said earlier, 40% of those. And that still could be by using spreadsheets, general admin paperwork. This causes an element of risk to the business, because if you're using spreadsheets, there's no accounting for those necessarily being kept up to date at all times. You can also look at the delay in getting those documents back and forth. Like we said, if you've got multiple links going out to candidates, they're going by email, they're not necessarily a secure way of collecting information. We know lots of people have looked at automating their systems. So since 2021, we know that that's rise from sort of 20% to over 40% of businesses looking at that process and going to more of a digital format to keep in line with the marketplace, and also help with those candidate shortages. And then we've got a small amount that are outsourcing their recruitment. So I suppose it's looking again at your internal processes and seeing where you can make those improvements. Are you still using manual spreadsheets? Is that the most effective way for you to be doing your recruitment? In October, we saw a change in the legislation. So we were given the autonomy to be able to do a digital right to work check. So I'm sure most of you are fully aware of IDVT and what that means to your recruitment process. But it's important to note that this is only valid if you have a candidate that has got a UK and Irish passport. But what it is enabling us to do is, again, to widen that search, to attract more candidates across a wider pool of people. So if you're a national company or if you're a recruitment agency, it means you've got more visibility across your candidates. It means you're able to do that remote recruitment and make sure that you're remaining compliant. You can still do it manually if that's the way you want to do it, but I think this remote identity checks have just given us an extra arm to the process to be able to speed it up and also make it easier for candidates as well to have a better choice in the marketplace. So how does automation and digitalisation improve your process? So we know that it speeds up onboarding time. So with customers that we've been working with, for instance, we work with a company called Premier Care. Now they work in a highly regulated sector, so compliance is of the utmost importance, but they reduced their time to hire from 2 weeks to 4 days. That's a significant saving on time, which also means is significant cost savings, because they're able to save on that operational cost and time, and it means they're able to get candidates on board quicker, so they minimise the risk of losing them to other recruiters, but it also means they're able to get them out onto shift, get them working, and it means they're able to fulfill their capacity or their requirements from customers. We've also got the ability, when you're using a digital format, to consolidate your third-party checks. So if you are doing multiple checks, this might be criminal record check, DVLA check, credit checks, etc. It means you can consolidate them and put them all in one place, not just for the candidate, but also from the recruiter's perspective. So you're able to review and validate your documents all in one place. So it keeps everything sort of more transparent, but it also means you're able to handle that compliance a lot tighter. You've also got the ease of audit. So everything that's done in a digital system will be fully audited. So it means then you're able to track all of those different steps in terms of when those documents were collected, when they were validated, when those checks were completed, and have a full report on those. And again, if you're a regulated sector, there are going to be times when you're going to need to be able to pull a report on specific candidates to meet with the regulations. So what I'd like to do now is give you a bit of a walkthrough on the Access Screening platform, so I can show you some of the benefits of going digital and how that automation can really help speed the process up for you. So with the screening platform, the beauty of it is it's very customizable. You can create workflows, compliance sets to meet your specific clients or your internal recruitment compliance. That could be on job roles, it could be on specific checks that you need to do. It might be around a BS 758 or BPSS, etc. Or again, it might be because you're working in education or recruitment, healthcare, so they're very highly regulated. So you can start the process at any point. Once you start a workflow with a candidate, they're going to receive a link from yourselves. This will be a fully branded email and it'll be your messaging. And this will give them a link to the portal. So all they simply need to do is to click on the link, and that will take them through to a candidate portal. So it will bring them through to a fully branded portal. They'll be met with a nice welcome message from yourself. And again, this is something that you would configure. So you put your messaging in there, and the candidate would then be able to work through a workflow. So when we talk about workflow, we're referring to the compliance set that meets your client, that meets your criteria. And that might be different depending on the client that you're working with. It might be different depending on the internal roles within the organisation. But you can customise those, and that will meet quite complex and comprehensive compliance sets that you might have. Now I've got 1 to 11 steps here, and this is so I can walk you through what's available within the system, but you might only have 1 to 6 or 1 to 7. Again, it's the personal preference on your compliance. So once the candidate gets started, they can start to work through the basic information. So on this particular page, it might ask for just simple information, just to confirm who the candidate is. So I've got mine set up at this point, just to ask for date of birth, nationality and national insurance number. I'm also asking for any other name, because what I've also included in my workflow here is third-party checks. So for this particular role, I'm including a criminal record check as well. And again, it's about minimising the number of links that you send out to a candidate, again, improving the candidate experience for them, enabling them to give you all the information you need in one place, but also to ensure that you have all the information back in one nice neat file. I'm going to confirm my contact details and move through to the next part of the workflow. As we move through, you're going to notice I've got these blue boxes across the top, and these are guidelines. So these are where you can put the guidelines in to let your candidates know what information you're requesting. But you will have also configured the system so it will recognise exactly what you need to collect. Now in the live system, we do have a live postcode lookup. They can simply find their address and put that in. They can then confirm their dates of the address. So I've asked for 5 years here because I wanted to pre-populate from a DBS. And as you can see, I've fulfilled the timelines and I've been told at the top that that's successfully met. I can carry on through the system. So really nice and easy for your candidates. And as we work through, you'll see that the referencing, we've got gap history in here, work history, all of it has the same look and feel. And that's to ensure the candidate's experience is really easy, really consistent. We want to take those barriers away. You want to keep the candidate engaged, and you want to make it as easy as possible. The system's also fully mobile compatible. So we know lots of candidates are going to want to do things on the run. You know, time's precious. They might want to sit with a cup of tea, dip in and out. They're able to do that through any mobile device or a desktop. They simply need to save the page at the end, and then they can dip in and out at their leisure. So I've got academic references set up here. This enables them to go in and put some information around what they've studied and their qualification. However, again, if academic references aren't something that you would have, you can simply just include employment references. And again, you can set the parameters up for your references. So that might differ from clients. It might differ from in different types of roles. I've got mine set up here to ask for 5 years of employment history. And it's going to ask for the referee's information as well. And this is where the automation comes into practice. So if you're currently doing manual references, that might mean you've got to obviously get the information from your candidate. You've then got to follow up on and confirm that reference, and then you've got to send that out, and then you've got to continually chase it. So that can be quite time consuming and quite admin heavy. What we want to do is take away that. This is the way the candidate can give you the information you need. They can give you the role and even the reason for leaving. You're also going to ask them to put the dates in. Now, I've asked for 5 years worth of employment history, but for the nature of this demo for you, I'm just going to say that I was there for the full 5 years and I don't actually have any gaps in my work history. It's then going to ask me to put in my referee information. Now, the important thing to remember also is when you're setting up this, you can have this go as fully automated. So as soon as I submit this back to you, it's going to send out a referee, send the referee a reference out. Or if you didn't want it to go out, it can come back into the system. You can validate it and then push it out. The beauty of this is once it goes out, you can also configure the system to send reminders out to the referee to let them know that you're still waiting for that to come back. And you can set the frequency up, so it might be every 24 hours, it might be every 48 hours. But the point is you can get that out, it frees your time up then to be concentrating on other things while the system is chasing that reference for you. So that's where the automation comes in and really cuts back on your admin time and really cuts back on that operational savings. Now, if I was already still working in that position, I might not want you to contact them, so I can click the do not contact box. You're still going to get the referee information, but it's going to come back into the system and wait for you to manually push it out. Once you manually push it out, it then goes into that automated process and will also start to chase the referee for you. So as you can see, I'm met the parameters again. It's giving me the green box across the top, and I know I can move through. Now, if I had any gaps in here, it would ask me to put in another employment. But if I didn't have another employment date to put in, I could simply put in some gap history. Again, if gap history isn't something that's relevant for your business, you don't need to include it in your workflow. But if it was, it just enables the candidate to put a reason for having a gap in that history. You've also got the option for personal references. And again, this might not be something that forms part of your compliance, but if it is, again, you can include it. You can make it optional. We also have a questions area of the portal. So this is where you can get quite creative. So along with the traditional documents that you need to collect, such as your right to work documents or proof of address, national insurance, etc. You might need certificates, proof of qualification. There might be other data and information you need to collect on that particular candidate. So for instance, emergency contact information. So we have 3 different types of questions. We have 3 types of questions, which enables me to put in some free text. And we've got multiple choice questions. So these are static questions where you can create these multiple choice. It's a great way to collect referrals. So if you're in recruitment, for instance, you want to collect referrals from new candidates, it's a great way to collect further information. And we've also got conditional questions. So dependent on what question I ask here will be dependent on what the next question triggered is. So for instance, I've set this one up to say, ask if they've got any medical conditions. If I click no, it's going to move to the next stage. But if I click yes, it's then going to trigger the question that's related to that. And it's going to ask me to provide more detail. And again, you can get as creative as you like with these questions. It can be a full-blown questionnaire, or it could just be, like I said, related to some additional data that you need. You've also got the option to supply your candidates with data. So if there were candidates that needed information, so it might be terms of business, you might want to give them a copy of your employee handbook, or you might want to provide policies. It could be privacy policies, security policies, health and safety. Well, you can make it that it's a mandatory requirement that they have to download that document and they have to acknowledge it within the system. Once they've acknowledged in the system, there'll be a date and time stamp. So think of it, you might have been online yourselves and you've had to sign a subscription or you've signed T's and C's. It works a bit like your digital signature, and there'll be a time and date stamp which will then show against the candidate's background check. So then you've got your documents section. So you can request the documents you need. We've got a couple of options. You can have a simple option where they can just simply upload a document. They can do this from their device. There might be documents that you need to be completed. So you can make it that the mandatory requirement that they need to download the document, complete it and upload the document back into the system. Once they've uploaded the documents, they will appear in the uploaded section here. You can also create little icons to give them information around what is and isn't acceptable when you're asking for documents, just to give them further guidelines. But again, you can also make it clear in your blue guideline boxes at the top what you're requesting from them. We've also got a direct integration with DocuSign. So there's any documents that you might need to be collected. And these can be a number of different documents. They might be standard documents where you just simply need a signature from the candidate, or you might have candidate-specific documents. So this could be contract of employment, for instance. You can upload these into your wallet. You can simply go into that and sign that. Again, you can have as many documents in that wallet as you require. Once they're done, they're going to go back into the system and sit against the candidate file. When the candidate gets to the end of their workflow, they're going to be met with the review page. Now, because I haven't made instances in this workflow mandatory, it's allowing me to move forward with lots of gaps. But again, to avoid that back and forth, you don't want to be sending emails back and forth to candidates. It's best to make certain elements of that you need mandatory. It just means that the candidate's going to have to provide you with all that information in one go. And I'd be notified in this blue box here of anything that I'd missed with a link taking me back to that. So I haven't got to worry about what I've missed. The system's going to let me know. So again, we want to make it really easy for the candidate to submit this data back to you. Now I can go through all the information. I can amend this at any time because I can see here the different information I've provided. If I'm happy with that information, I can simply read the T's and C's and I can agree to those and progress. Now again, I've added a third-party check. This might not be relevant to your organisation or your roles, but it does give you the option to add these if they're needed. So for this particular workflow, I've included a criminal record check, so enhanced DBS. So it's going to get the candidate to complete the privacy policy and the consent documents and proceed through. Now again, depending on your compliance and your internal policy, you might want to give a candidate the option to go on the update service if you're doing an enhanced DBS. So this might be more relevant to, like I said, highly regulated services, or complete a new DBS form. So if they're doing a new criminal check, they can simply go through to the pre-populated DBS check. It's going to run them through the statements of fair processing and the processing principles, and then it's going to allow them to complete that online application for the DBS check. The next demo, I'm not going to put you through the pain of watching me do a dummy DBS, so I'm going to say I'm on the update service and pop my certificate number in, sign my declaration and process that. Once I submit that, that's going to come straight back into the back end of the system for yourselves. And as you can see, as the candidate, I'll get a thank you message, so I know I've completed everything my end. And again, it's just about letting that candidate know that they've completed that step in the process, so now they can follow with you moving forward. So if I jump to the system, you're going to be able to manage all of your candidates' onboarding process through the system at the back end. You'll have a dashboard that will give you a at a glance in real-time viewpoint of everything you're doing. So you'll be able to see all the candidates that you have going through the process in any one time, whether you're waiting for the candidates to complete the candidate portals, or you have candidates that you're waiting to go in and validate. You'll be able to see anything that needs any sort of red flags that you need to be made aware of. So this might be where a reference has been altered, or it might be where a DBS has come back with content on, or you've had a reference rejected. So things that are going to affect the onboarding of that candidate. These widgets as well can be changed and moved depending on what you want to see. You can have as few or as little on here depending on the data that you want to view at any one time. So you might want to have an actions tab here. So this will almost give you a to-do list of things that you're able to review. You'll be able to see your referencing, anything that's completed. You've got full reports in here, so you're able to manage your data. And you'll also be able to keep a good handle on your expiring documents. So where you might be using manual processes and spreadsheets, this is going to eliminate that for you. So everything can be kept in a central location. You're able to manage that documentation, expiry dates, and make sure you're fully up to date with your compliance. So again, as I said earlier, the system is fully customizable in terms of your workflows and compliance to meet different roles. And if you want a more in-depth look at the system, then I'd be more than happy to arrange a more in-depth demo based on your criteria. So just please get in touch with us. So just to kind of talk about how some of our customers are benefiting from the screening solution. So we have a number of hundreds of customers on the system already from multiple sectors. You know, we're seeing some real good results from them in terms of them moving away from a manual process to improving their time to hire, having that digital process in place, keeping candidates more engaged. So again, it's just about looking at how you can improve what you're currently doing, attract more candidates, keep them through the process so you're not losing them to other providers or other recruiters. And we've got lots of collateral to share with you and help you look at that. So we do have a screening booklet on how you can evidence the return on investment for digitalising your pre-employment. So we'll be happy to share that out with you. We've got a number of other literature available to look at your process, recruitment, screening in general. So we're happy to share that out with you. But if you would like to know more about our screening solution, then please get in touch with us. Like I said, we will be sending this information out following the webinar, and please feel free to get in touch with us to find out more information. So thanks for joining. Really appreciate you taking time out of your day today. I think we're probably going to be able to give you a little bit of time back. So again, if you have any questions and would like to catch up with us, please do reach out. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks again for attending, and I hope you found this helpful.